My name is Amir Husak. I'm one of this year's festival programmers together with Diana Jelica. And I'm very happy and pleased to tell you that we have two of the filmmakers, two of the directors tonight of the films that you've seen tonight with us, and those are Aleksandra Odić, the director of the last film you've seen, Great Wall of China, and also Amir Karagić, director of the film Stalemate. Let me tell you a little bit just briefly about them, and then I'll invite them up to the stage. Aleksandra Odić was born in Bosnia-Herzegovina and immigrated to Germany as a child in 1992 amid the Bosnian War. An accomplished actress, she has appeared in several television programs, including the German crime series Soko, as well as Vienna Crime Squad and Nachtschicht, or Night Shift, along with the short films Moonlight in 2008 and Tango in 2011. Aleksandra studied directing at the German Film and Television Academy in 2010. And received a fellowship 2 years later from the Department of Film and Media Art at the Academy of Arts in Berlin. Great Wall of China premiered, I believe, at the Berlin Film Festival. Is that correct, Aleksandra? Yes, yeah. Oh, there you are. Premiered at the Berlin Film Festival earlier this year, and it marks her directorial debut. And then we have Amir Karagić, who is a Dutch Amsterdam-based, I believe Amsterdam, right, Amir? Amsterdam-based filmmaker with Bosnian roots, of Bosnian origins. Born in Bosnia? Okay, I didn't find that information anywhere, so I'm like, okay, I'll just assume that yes, he was born in Bosnia. Interestingly, Amir's background is actually in management consulting, and he has no formal film training. So the short film Stalemate is his directorial debut. Please give them both a round of applause, and I will invite them here to stage with me. It's slightly dangerous here, so don't fall.
Good evening.
Hi. I think, do these work? Can you guys hear us? Yes. Is that one on as well? Hello?
We're on.
All right, great. Mic check, mic check. Thank you both for these wonderful films, and thank you for being here. And as one of the hosts, I always have to ask this. Is this your first time in New York?
It's my second time. I've been here 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Aleksandra?
It's my first time in New York, and I like it very much. And it's fantastic here. And I want to thank the festival for inviting us. It's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a lot of questions that I have, and I'll also open it up to the public and the audience to ask you. I have several questions, and I was particularly curious about your films, in a sense that your film is, Aleksandra, was filmed actually around Derventa region, if I'm correct. I found this great because usually a lot of films come to us, and very often it's Sarajevo. Nothing against Sarajevo, but I see the same images almost over and over again. So I'm always kind of glad to see that there are films that show these smaller communities as well. So my question will be to you is sort of, how did this process start? You've left Derventa a long time ago. How did you go about assembling this amazing cast as well, your actors, to tell us specifically about this process, about going back and shooting there? And then, Amir, for you, I was very curious about this whole. We talked about different kind of, well, after watching your film, about what could have inspired this film, particularly, maybe some parts of your biography, maybe that we don't know about. So maybe you can also share a little bit about this process, how the ideas came about, and a little bit about your actors as well. So, in any order.
Should I start? So I visit Bosnia every year, since a couple of years, I went back there every year, once or twice, to visit my relatives. And when I wanted to shoot this film in my mother tongue for the first time, to do such a work, I was looking for the right location. For sure, I believed I also have to go to Sarajevo to shoot the film in Sarajevo. But things happened, and somehow I ended up in Dervinta, where I come from. And we had very small budget. It was a student project. And so what happened is that we found everything we need there. And for such a long shooting, because we had a child in the main role, we were shooting quite longer than you would shoot a short film. Sorry? That was another, okay. We needed this community where people kind of know me, and they helped a lot. And also, we were professionals from everywhere. The crew came from Germany with me, from Berlin, and the actors I found in Bosnia. So I went to Sarajevo, and I met Anila Gajević, who is a casting director, and she helped me a lot, because this is it's very difficult to find actors in Bosnia without knowing them before or without living there. They don't have show reels like I'm used to in Germany, for instance, to have the first look. So she helped me a lot, and then I traveled around, and the research took very long time, and I met them, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how long did the whole process actually, when did you start shooting originally?
It took a year, but I was not constantly preparing. But I thought I would shoot 2014, but then we couldn't. I wasn't prepared enough, and also there was this, what do you call it, poplava? Flooding in Bosnia, and not everything was closed. Nobody was really in the mood to help me about the film. There were other things, more important things to do. And then
Dervinta was hit especially hard, if I remember correctly, Tobo in that region. Yeah.
And also in Sarajevo, the institutions were closed. People were on the road helping, and then we postponed it for the next summer, because I wanted to shoot in the summer. So then I had a lot of time to prepare.
Great, thank you.
Sounds very stressful if you have to postpone your film.
It was the best.
That's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So Amir, can you tell us a little bit more about?
Yeah, most definitely. So yeah, there's definitely a personal component in the movie. So I initially set out to make my first movie, and I was looking for a story. I had a list of stories that I wanted to tell, but since it was my first attempt at movie making, I really wanted to kind of constrain myself into something actually just narrowing down to the core of the movie, of something that I want to do. So I decided to go all in on the story, essentially, and really looking into the core of a story. So it ended up being a movie of essentially a conversation between two men. And the first guideline there was the power dynamics between men, especially men from the Balkan region. We have, I don't know, I still don't know how to explain it, but we have a way about us. In one way, we'll do everything for you, and another way, it's very hard for us to be open towards you in one way or another. And obviously, I have that relationship with my father as well, and what really saved our relationship was playing chess, essentially. At some point, we came to the point where we started playing chess, and it gave us a platform to really battle out our different points of view just on the chessboard, and kind of also allowed us to see each other's points of view before we are ready to judge them, if you know what I mean. And that was the start. It helped me a lot out. It helped me out a lot in my own life, and I wanted to use that as a starting point for my film. And the chess game that you've seen, it's actually a real chess game that's been played, I think, somewhere in the end of 50s, beginning of 60s. So I don't know much about filmmaking, but I do know a lot about chess. So I used the game essentially as a starting point, and I built my whole script around it. And the key moves, they represented something in the dialogue, etc. So that was my initial point. And then halfway through the process, I figured out that, I don't know, my story is too shallow. This is not really what I wanted to tell. I mean, everything was there, but it didn't feel right. So I started digging, and maybe 2 days before I actually started shooting the film, I figured out what it's really about. So it's not necessarily about a estranged father and his son. It's more about my own personalities or my own versions of me, if you will. So the inner critic, the very risk-averse individual versus the creative child, if you will. And yeah, I wanted to let them battle it out essentially and see what happens out of that, what comes out of that.
Well, for being a first film, it's a remarkable achievement, really.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to Aleksandra again and ask you specifically. I've noticed also that you worked. I wanted to know about your relationship with some of your key crew members, the director of photography, Katarina Disner, and your editor, Branka Pavlovic. I also found that this was also strong to have like a all-female directorial, editorial crew on the film. Can you tell us a little bit about your history with them? Do you know each other for a longer time, maybe through the Film Academy in Germany or some other way?
I know the DOP, Katarina Disner, from the Academy, and the editor I didn't work with before. This was our first work together. With Katarina Disner too, but I knew her before. I find them both really great workers and people. So it was a pleasure to work with both of them, but we didn't know before how it's going to be. But I enjoy working with female filmmakers. For me, it's different.
Can you tell me about some specifics of the whole process of maybe editing the film? Certain doubts and challenges that came out?
Doubt?
Or no doubts?
I don't know what that means. I had, of
I
course.
envy you.
And you don't believe me. Yes, of course, we were. The film was much longer. It was written for a short, but then we were shooting so much, and then we had so much material, and then you have to cut down and cut down and cut down, and there are moments when you think, I cannot make it shorter. There is nothing else. It will be too short. It will be nothing. and then your editor works alone, and then you work together again, and you make one step. Kako se kaže, jedan naprijed, dva nazad, koraka.
One step forward, two step back.
Sometimes. But of course, mostly you are very successful in everything you do. No, yeah, it was a long process. And Branka helped me a lot. Yes, because we are, as a director and author, you're so stick together with this project. It's your baby, and you go all the way with it. And sometimes you're blind, and you need help. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and the editors usually can bring like really a fresh new set of eyes to this material and change the way you actually find other components of the story. Wonderful. Amir, could you tell us also a little bit about your specific process of editing and putting this together? What were some of the challenges that you found, maybe also from a narrative standpoint?
Definitely. Key challenge being it's my first attempt at filmmaking, and for me my personal goal was to pretty much go through all the phases of creating a film and finishing a film on my own, purely because actually my key lesson while going through this process is that I'll never stop doing this. So as long as I'm alive, I'm going to continue making movies. And as my first attempt, I really wanted to experience everything as much as possible myself, which will allow me for future productions to, direct in a better way, in a more effective way, because I'll be able to state in a much clearer way what I actually want. So for this movie, it was really my goal to do everything myself, or as much as possible myself, of course. So I ended up, I wrote the movie, I directed the movie, I produced the movie. I think I even took care of the catering. So and I ended up also, without any editing experience, I also edited the movie. So, and that's, again, I absolutely loved as tedious as some phases of filmmaking are, I absolutely loved every phase of it. And I can't wait to dig into something new again.
Yeah. Well, it's really, it is often this sense that, you know, when you do everything on your own, by yourself, you really start realizing and appreciating the collaborative sort of aspects of filmmaking, but you also learn a lot.
Exactly, and for me personally, what I'm taking out of this whole experience, especially when it comes to editing, for me it's a magical process, as tedious as it can be sometimes. Just to see something come alive is surreal. On one side, and then on top of that, you know, things you can't even, you know, you're planning as much as possible. Of course, you have a vision of what you want, of the story you want to tell, how you want to visualize it. But then when you have all the materials together, that's when the job really starts. And you know, how do you utilize the material that you have? And there's, you know, the end result is nothing. There's two scenes that I cut out. There's two scenes that I merged into each other, and it, you know, the end result became 10 times better than I would have expected. So yeah, overall a magical experience.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to the audience now and see if anyone has questions. And there's hands up. Maybe let's have your question real quick. I think is there a microphone, or there is one? Just a second. I believe we're recording, so that's why it would be great if you could wait for. There we go. Thank you.
First of all, incredible job. I loved both movies. I wanted to find out the emotional connection to the movies and how it actually plays out in your life, because the Chinese Wall, it's like my childhood. It's like everybody has the Lila in their family. And I wanted to know whether that's something that's connected to you personally, and or how you are emotionally and mentally connected into the movie yourself. And same for you as well. And also I had a question about what was the purpose of the man sitting behind with ordering the daily, the fish and the wine? That's it.
Thank you.
Sure. To start off with the easy part. So the fourth guy in the story is, I mean, the key reason why I wanted to have a fourth character in the movie is to essentially display again male power dynamics, especially from, you know, men in the Balkans, and how they interact with each other, and how a lot is said without actually saying anything, and just, you know, playing with these dynamics and see what comes out of it. Initially, what I needed essentially an extra, just to make sure that I have some reaction shots, and also to take the attention away from the father and the son, because if you were just, you know, focused at what's happening at their table, it's going to become boring at some point. So it all came together with actually being able to get a really experienced actor, and the waiter from the movie, and the extra essentially. They're also making sketches together, so they're really they're really experienced in working with each other. So I really wanted to have him there, and the story kind of grew from there. So that was also a part that was for the most part improvised, like the dialogue between them. But the key reason why I wanted to have him there is again to display male power dynamics. When it comes to the personal side of the movie, so hopefully that was the message that you get from this movie. Everything is is an inner battle essentially, and by going through this process, so I worked probably about a year on the movie, and like I said earlier, it dawned on me what this movie is actually about. Maybe like 2 days before I was about to shoot the movie. It's the inner struggle, and that's hence the father is playing himself essentially.
Aleksandra?
I also had my Lila in my life, and this is actually a film for my Lila. It's as simple as it sounds. And then it grew bigger because it happens, such story happens somewhere. There is always a setting, and I put it in contemporary, in, kako se kaže, sadašnju Bosnu, country Bosnia.
Yeah. Present day
Because
Bosnia.
present day, thank you. And I know the feeling, we all know these special people, special persons who can give love in a very special way, and who are so a little bit strange, and so they are able to open your heart and to go deep inside and to touch you, and you remember them forever. Whatever happens, if they go away, they are still this special lilas for you. Yeah, I had such and also I know how it is when you want to go your own way, and it's risky, and you cannot give a guarantee it's gonna work, and people are not sure where are you gonna end up and what's gonna happen with you. They want to protect you, but you feel you have to do it. Yeah, so I know this side too.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Since I already have the mic.
Yes. Okay.
I guess congratulations to the both of you. Amazing job, both films. My question is to Amir. You say that you mentioned that you found what the film was about 2 days before you started filming. What is the takeaway after the film? Did it stay the same way throughout? Do you still feel like the film was about the same thing, or after you've created it now, has that changed?
No, I feel that the movie is definitely the same. So my takeaway from the film, from the experience as a whole, is it definitely changed me, and it kind of planted a seed in my head where when I'm obviously life goes on and there's things coming on your path and decisions that you have to make. It definitely triggers me into not forgetting what's going on, and if my thought process is going in a certain way, that I can recognize the thought process and kind of also control myself in that sense. But the story that I wanted to tell is still there, and if anything, I really gave it my all, and I think I even put too much into a short film. So my hope is that whoever looks at it, obviously people have different experiences in their lives, and I hope that whoever's looking at it, whatever phase of their lives they're in, maybe you can identify yourself with the father. Maybe at the end of the day, on the surface, it's about a estranged father and a son. Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people who identify with that. If you go, there's power dynamics there between men. There's there's this inner struggle that's being portrayed. So whatever you take out of the movie, if it leaves you with something, I'm already happy,
And same question, I guess. What was the takeaway, and how has it changed you after?
I don't understand what was the takeaway.
Well, how has this experience of shooting the film, making it, actually changed you, if
Yes,
I understood
yes,
correctly?
exactly.
It's a very strong experience, and the process of how did it change me?
Did it change you?
Maybe I can answer some of my questions again, the questions that I had before. Now I ask them myself again, and sometimes I realize I didn't change my mind. I found it right good. I think it's right good as it was, and other questions I answer now differently.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Please, Amir.
Obviously, when it comes to filmmaking, the only way to leave an impression is to leave a little bit of yourself in the film. You definitely left an impression on me, so I'm just curious, out of the characters, is there any character in particular that's really, that you have a personal connection with, or that's, resembling your personality one way or another? Is it the girl that left, perhaps, or?
I share with both of them something. I think I kind of felt a lot for both characters, so that's why I had a strong feeling and knew where I want to lead them, what I want to do with them. Yeah, so it's not one character. I feel, yes, for both of them, and also the others. I know people from real world who are quite a lot like
exactly.
this.
I'm sure it's a combination of multiple experiences that you use as an inspiration to write the story, of course.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no character in particular that really that you try to like. Did you base it from the point of view or did the personal side really was the story told from the point of view of the little girl, or more of the girl that left?
No, a little girl's point of view. I wanted at least it to be like this.
Hi.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Yes. I was very touched with your film, Aleksandra, and let me ask you about one sentence that I heard, which is when a father says, "I will always be Yugoslav," or "I will always stay Yugoslav." It's so interesting to me, and I think I heard something like that for the first time in our movies from the former Yugoslavia. I personally think it's fantastic that we hear, we who are not nationalists, for the first time, at least as far as I know, that we have also that in the movie, not only nationalist point of view. So my question is, how did you come up with that sentence?
Because it's a topic in all, how do you call them now in English, u regionu, svim državama bivše Jugoslavije. Yeah.
The countries of former Yugoslavia.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
It's a topic.
There's also a kind of a, if I may just interject,
Yes,
there's also a resurgence and kind of a of this memory of the Yugoslav memory, kind of coming back of this,
Yes.
of the ideas and the feeling and sort of the social sort of a structure and kinship and things that existed during the period of Yugoslavia. So it was, yeah, yeah, that was a good question. But yeah, was there anything else that particularly maybe inspired also that line, or no?
For me, it was something a little bit a mixture of humor, black humor, and something a nostalgic feeling, and a need and wish that life would be easier than it is. And I don't know if Yugoslavia would be the answer to that. It's gone, it's past, it's not there anymore. But I think people still think a lot about it, how it was, and they know it's over. We cannot bring it back again. But somehow it's not forgotten, and with all ideas that it had. I don't want to say that the father in this film is a left-wing thinking person. Maybe some people here are, but I don't want to say this about him. So he's maybe using this sentence more like a joke. Let's get rid of this topic, and these women should stop talking about it. So I give them my Yugoslav sentence, and we go on with playing cards. Would you stop now, please? So more that kind. But yeah, there are people who are really analyzing what was there in Yugoslavia, and we don't have it anymore, and what was even quite modern, and it's gone now, and what's happening in the world. Is it really going forward or backward? And not just in Bosnia. Unfortunately, we see all these walls and nationalism in whole Europe and the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not funny. Yeah.
And there should be, maybe there's also an idea that, you know, we kind of look towards this past, especially men of the older generation and women as well, looking towards a period of Yugoslavia of relative stability and peace,
yes,
among people.
And peace.
Course, yeah.
Yes, and there are also many, how can I say, many Yugoslav products, you know, that people were allowed to love each other in this country and to come together, and they lived together, and they made families, homes, kids, and this is everything, like it's gone, but these people are still alive. So what to do with that?
Thank you, Aleksandra. There's another question. Maybe there was a hand up here.
Mika?
Yes, you had a hand up? No, there was a question first there, I believe, but if we may,
I don't know.
we'll come to you as well.
Time. Well, I've enjoyed both movies, all three of them. As a matter of fact, my question is for Amir. I'm just curious. So you mentioned a couple of times it's not only that you wanted to portray dynamics between men, but in particular Balkan men. So I'm just curious about your choice of actors that are not particularly from Balkan and do not particularly speak any of Balkan languages, and What's your take on it? Was it like matter of logistics? Does it even matter from the point of someone who makes the movie? And how has it been received? I don't know how many times you've shown the movie.
Well, it's definitely been a conscious decision. So I think looking at my background, my family's background, I'm sure most of the people who have their roots in the Balkans, everybody has gone through pretty significant things in the last 20, 30 years. There are definitely, those are all individual stories that are worth telling. Personally, I'm kind of sick of the movies that are from originating from the Balkans and with a very heavy war theme. So my personal mission is to tell these stories, but through characters that hopefully everybody can relate to. So to kind of take that concept and still use the powerful stories that are existing and make sure that they're heard by people all over the world. And I'll continue doing this and making sure that these stories are told through actors that don't necessarily originate from that area.
Thank you. And then we had a question here.
My name is Amir Karagić, and I always be Yugoslav. Both of you did a wonderful. Thank you. Both of you did a wonderful job, and there's an experienced movie maker and a novice movie maker, but list of collaborators at the end of the movie is immense. You both stated that the budgets for your movies were low. May I ask what the budgets were?
Can we reveal this?
Yeah, most definitely. So obviously, when it comes to independent filmmaking, there's a lot of goodwill there as well. So the exact amount of of this production would have been far higher. Of course, I think it was around 7,000-8,000 euros, which I would happily finance with my Bitcoin earnings. So essentially, it was fairly.
You see, Bitcoin is actually useful sometimes.
And the other one?
Yours was a co-production with the Deutsche Film and Fernsehakademie, right?
It's not co-production officially;
Okay.
it's their production. Yeah.
Okay.
Even if there was some private money in it, but it was like around 15,000 cash. But then we had plus a little bit more. We didn't really count, and then we have all the equipment, camera equipment, and post-production provided by the academy. So. This is the big part that we don't have to pay. That's why it was possible. On the other hand, we were traveling to another country outside of European Union, and this is this costs very much to shoot a film in Bosnia.
Yeah, specifically insurance, licensing, etc.
Yes, and all these small things like telephone, using a mobile phone or providing mobile phones for people in Bosnia.
And Bureks for everyone.
And Bureks, 24/7 Burek, oh my God. Yes.
Do we have another question? We have one up there.
Hello.
Hello.
I have two questions. I was wondering what it was like to work with a young little girl. And also what the relationship between the mother and the daughter, especially in the beginning of the film, what that signified, because I felt like it was a little bit heavy in a way, like there was a little pressure that was there, or fear or something. So I was just curious about what that signified.
So first, your first question was
what was it like to work with a little one?
With Alana Matic, right?
Yes. She never acted before. This was her first time in a movie, and she's very talented, and she's also very strong personality, and she was carrying this whole film on her little back, of course, with all of us together. But she had to be there every day, and we had many days of shooting with her, and she was very strong, and she made it. She said she's gonna do it. She had no idea what is this about, how does that feel to be on set. And she kept her word and did a very good job. And of course, when you have such a little kid on set, and then you have adult professional actors, they were all very imali su razumijevanja.
They had an understanding.
They had a lot of understanding for my work with the kid, because she was always in the center. I first had to take care of her and then to work with all the others. But I was lucky. I had such good actors, and they were all lovely. And the second question
What did
was,
the relationship signify? Is that-
Between the mother, yeah,
Between
and
the
the daughter.
which
Seems
mother
like-
and daughter?
So in the beginning of the film, when the little girl
The
wandered
small
off,
girl and her mother.
yeah, when she wandered off, and there was a moment where she picked her up, and
Yeah.
she had said something kind of like fearful, and I was just wondering, is that her mother?
Yes, that's her mother, and she's afraid of her kid to
Oh.
play around. This is actually, you know, it's like oasis where they live in this garden, this beautiful garden with a lot of flowers. That's very typical for Bosnia. People go, if they have houses, they spend their weekends and free time in their garden, and it's very beautiful. But it's like a line, you know, don't cross that line. For instance, where I come from, in this city, town where we also shot, there are still some minefields, like everywhere in Bosnia. People don't talk so much about it, but there are still some. And what we wanted to express is that, you know, it's in the whole film, if you keep behaving the way your family or your society wants you to behave, or if you stay in the u granicama,
Within limits.
within the
Yeah.
limits,
Mhm.
physically or mentally, it's gonna be fine. You'll be fine, but don't go out, because then things can happen physically, or don't cross certain borders on different levels. That's actually the topic, kind of this relationship also.
On that note, we'll have to end it because we just ran out of time. But there's another projection here, I believe, right, coming up right now. But thank you again, and we look really forward to your next work, which I'm going to ask you about just as we walk out. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you for inviting us.